Okay, welcome to an episode of sampling. We're going to be doing some sampling today. And by sampling, in this situation, we're talking about recording a musical instrument and mapping it into a plugin so that we can perform that instrument there. So, most of the instruments that we use in Logic that have the word sampling in the name, such as the sampler or the quick sampler, or even many of the drum kits were all created using sampling. And so we're going to be looking at that process a little bit today. We're going to look at a very easy way to sample something. Let's just pull up a sampler for a second so you can see what this looks like. And we'll just pull open a keyboard. And so we have all these different windows in here. Mostly what we're interested at this point is the actual mapping section. We're going to be mapping and looking at the actual zone section down below where we get loops and things. And so that's what we're going to be exploring today. I've got in front of me my, well, it's the Model D. It's going to pull it over in the camera. It's the same one that was on the thumbnail. And we're going to be looking at this particular instrument. Just because I have it here in front of me and it fits on my desk, it's not necessarily an instrument that we need to sample. We have other synthesizers, but I love being able to create with knobs and get it to sound exactly like we want. I don't think you could actually see it when I held it up just a second ago, but it's attached to a bunch of cables. And so let me show you a little bit of what we have set up here. Right now, I'm using an instrument track with an external instrument option on it, just a mono version of it because this is a mono synth. And the MIDI destination is the Model D. It's plugged in via USB cable directly to this instrument. It has a USB port on it. It doesn't matter which channel for this specific instance. And then it's plugged into input 2 on my interface. And so that's the signal flow. And if I push a key on my external MIDI keyboard, it's going to trigger the Model D, and that'll play the sound into my interface. I just love that sound. That's without any filter engaged right now, although we could. Right, so we could do that, but we're going to leave the filtering for later on inside the software for now. So how does this work then? In this case, there's a few different options. The simplest one that everybody can do is just to record some audio, right? So let's make an audio track. I'm going to mute that original one. We'll call this the Model D. And we're going to set the input to whatever input that instrument is attached to. And we're going to record and input monitor. And let's see. Because that's the MIDI output is instrument 1. So we're getting the audio input. So now, simple way to sample is just to push record and then play some notes for the duration you want and the octave you want. The more, typically the better, but we don't have to. Let me just push a couple notes here. Ooh, it looks like we're going to have a little bit of an issue there. Maybe some DC offset. I wonder if my cable's having some issues. I'm not going to worry about that right this second. I'll have to troubleshoot that afterwards, but you can see it looks like we have certainly some offset happening in the lower notes. And so that could be any number of factors here in terms of all the USB or the audio cable. Someone who knows more about electrical stuff would probably be able to determine that right away, but we're going to use it as is. I'm going to have to certainly figure out what the cause of that was. Probably something with my interface and the cables attached. And now that I think about it, anyway, we're going to just take this that we recorded. I'm going to drag this out onto one of the new options here. So I'm dragging it over into the header area, and we can do this sampler zone per note. And then you can see it tried to figure this out. Looks like there was one that it didn't get very well. Oh, it looks like it's because it looks like it's in the middle of a note. So let's drag this one all the way over and just hit delete on that top one and drag that up. So now I'm just going to try all these notes. Let's see. So now I'm playing this and it's playing it from the computer instead of from the original synthesizer. And in fact, I don't know. Let me just click on one of these zones here. I don't see any. Let's see. So just doing it all one shot didn't actually loop them or anything, but we do want to loop them. And so we're going to actually probably make a few edits here. So this is where like the art of sampling comes into play a little bit more. It's where it's a little trickier, but I'm just going to select all my zones and let me show you a few things down here. We have auto loop as a functionary, as a function of this. So let's do auto loop and let's see if it did it on more than one of these. It looks like it just did it on that one. Let's hear that sample though. So we're going to have to adjust it a little bit. The auto loop wasn't that great with that because I wanted to do a little crossfade and it wouldn't. Even that one, just manually, you might have to tweak it some more. Let's try it one more time with the auto loop within loop area. Ooh, that's not good. So we're going to have to zoom in and possibly do that all by hand just because with the harmonies of the original synth, it looks like the crossfades are causing some sort of phasing thing. We'll auto loop it again. That original one was. So I can hear that little bit of nasty. But you can't do the crossfade when it's looping it from the first part of the sound, which is kind of strange. So it looks like we're going to have to maybe do a few of those. Yeah, it's going to be a pain. I can tell already. Let's do eyeball it. that's tough. It's just changing just enough over time. Ooh, that's tricky. Huh. So we may have to mess around with that a little bit more, but I'm not really feeling this particular method for this this type right here. So let's look at the other option for this instead of just playing the notes in. And that would be up with the actual instrument track. And we're going to call this the Model D instrument. I've had better luck with just the recording and dragging when it's they're simpler waveforms, or when I'm not looping. In this case, let's mute all these others. Let's throw on here the second option, which is a utility auto sampler. And if you've used the auto sampler, then you'll know it's kind of an elegant solution anytime you have an instrument that has MIDI capabilities. So I can do this with this particular instrument because it has a MIDI input on it, and then it's going to do all the other work. We're going to do auto loop, but I think we're going to have to do the Penrose machine maybe, just to see if that would fix some of the issues. And if not, it may be that I want to turn off some of the oscillators on this and do one oscillator at a time, and then have the sampler actually loop or layer those oscillators after the fact. We just need one velocity layer on here. So essentially with this, I get to set all the parameters, and then it does all the sampling for us. So I choose the notes. Let's see if any of... Gosh, I should be hearing something there. Let's see if I start it, if it's going to work. And we'll do the Model D test run. Ah, we're just not hearing it. That's weird. So we'll let this go fast. And then, because it says only 31 seconds remaining. So this is a really fast way of doing the sampling. I'm not sure why we're not hearing it. A couple quirks in today so far. First one with the synth having some sort of offset issue right now. And then now with the audio not playing through the auto sampler. But it's getting audio, so I think we're going to be okay with it. And that's the last one. And then it's going to do all the conversions. And I don't know, did it load that in automatically? I don't think it might have right there. Cool, so no, it didn't. So this is not the right one. So let's do let's load up an instrument here. And with this, I'm just going to load up the sampler. And we're going to go up in here and we'll see the auto sampled, the Model D test. So it automatically gets populated into the menus. Let's see just what we got here. And it didn't actually put any files in there. So we're just like crashing and burning all around today. That's really interesting. Let's go back to the original and see what's happening here. because that shouldn't be. All of that's working. This is all set up correctly. That might be what it is, actually. Let's adjust my MIDI input on the back of the Model D so that it's channel 1. Okay, that was the issue. It looks like even if, and I did not know this is brand new information at least, the auto sampler, I don't have a choice to send out what MIDI data it's on. I thought it would just send out the one that the channel was, but apparently it doesn't. So I had to actually set the input to be channel 1, and then we can do the sample. And then, I don't know if I can mute this and do it at the same time. Let me find out, because it'd be hard to, well, let's just do it once. So let's sample this now. Model D test, save it as the same thing. Cool. And let's cancel that for a second, because I should have seen this before. It was going for 10 seconds. This is a stationary patch, so we don't need 10 seconds sustain. Let's just do a 4-second sustain. Everything else looks good. No round robin. We don't need any of that. So let's do this one more time. 4 seconds. You can see the looping happening. Those variations are from the pitches of the oscillators. They're slightly different. Okay, cool. It's like we should have seen all of that happening the first time, but you just never know. So let's do a factory, just load something else, and we'll come back to that one. So sounds a little different, I think, because we're using the Penrose engine for the looping. It may be worth trying that with the other things to see how they sound, or simplifying the patch just a little bit. But I didn't want a simple patch. I wanted this patch. And so a couple of the benefits of doing this are, A, you get the software version. I don't have to take this hardware synthesizer with me if I don't want to. B, it gives me polyphony. So when I was doing it just with this one synth, it's a mono synth. I can't ever hold chords, but I can now. Definitely sounds a little bit different. I think the Penrose machine, which is what I used in the auto sampler to do the looping, because we were having a problem with the other version. I think that's what's giving it that slightly different sound. So I I think I want to do it another time because I think I want to actually get that closer to right instead of just settling for something. But we could do. I don't think bidirectional is going to sound good, so that's where it goes forward then backward then forward then backward. Let's try the search, but make sure it doesn't do it exactly at the beginning. And then I want to do pretty much once every octave. So this will just do 6 notes real quick. Bear with, we're going to lower this to 3 seconds. And so we'll do this as test number 2. Now we can do it that way with only 1 note per octave, mostly because it's a synthesizer. So there's not a ton of nuance between each of the notes. There is some, but we were just really testing out the loop points. That does. I think that sounds quite a bit better. Hello to everybody in the chat. How's it going? We're working on some sampling today. Really just kind of an introduction to 2 ways of doing this. The first one, I had some actual pretty decent sized issues with, partially because I think I'm having a bad cable kind of day. And in fact, I might just hang tight for a second. I'm gonna, while I'm talking to you, I think my microphone should last. I'm just gonna grab a different cable for a second. So let's just hold on for a minute while I go grab this other cable, just because I do want to see if for some reason I'm having a cable issue today instead of something else that I can't fix. So I'm going to grab an instrument cable from the other studio room here. You'll hear lots of like strange noises for a minute. There we go. And then we'll try this one to see if it works. Okay, I'm back. Always fun to like stop in the middle. And I'm going to mute all of my audio tracks for a second. Now let's do this up here. Okay. Okay, 1 cable out, 1 cable in, and I switched the inputs to So we'll see. No, I'm hearing a lot of hiss on that. Let me switch it back. This is the Model D, so I have a low and a high, and I think the high is really what I want. Although I'm thinking that could have been what was causing the issue in the first place. Okay. So I'm just changing that out to, see, I'm still getting some weird, like, harmonics on the sine wave. It's not exactly. Okay, cool. So we're going to try the first technique one more time, which was to record that into a track. And let's set that to the right input. And we'll record. Still some interesting issues with that. But let's see if it actually, it looks like it analyzed it better than the last time. And let's do auto loop. Oh, that's so weird. Its idea of an auto loop is to give me like the first little bit there. It feels like the sampler has gotten dumber in some ways. Because I'm getting way better results with the auto sampler than with that. I'm just doing the looping. So let's stick with that one for a moment. This one right here, the test number 2. Not perfect loops, but they're long enough files that and I think in most cases you wouldn't be able to tell. And so I think that that's fine. We can with all of these. So what I do like about the sampler in its newest iteration are a lot of these tools, meaning we can do things like retuning, and we can we can just do so much with the analysis of it in terms of it seeing what's there and fixing some of the things with us. Let's actually, I want to try one more thing with this other one because I feel like there's potential for it, but so let's do optimize loop start and end, and then I'll play a little bit. Optimize with crossfade. So even that is not doing amazing. I'm going to move those again, optimize loop. So you can hear that it's not doing a great job even when I say optimize it with this one. But when I did the original with the auto samplers, you can still hear the bump of the sample, but it's a lot tighter in many ways. And I don't know if we need to like optimize. It's already optimized, it's not doing anything. Okay. So we can do other things. We can auto loop, We can retune if we need to. And we want to undo. Well, redo whatever I just did. I need to undo it here. Okay, cool. We're back. Had like a little weird glitch in there for a second. We can also do some other things that are really useful. So if I'm doing a sample, that's really stretched across the notes. For instance, if I wanted just to pull one of these, so I just want to do, for instance, that note, right? We're going to pull this one down into a quick sampler optimized. Let's start it right there. You can see how as I play higher, it gets shorter, and if I play lower, it's longer. Well, that was always a function of how samplers would do this. The nice thing is we don't have to do that. We can just have it follow the tempo. So we have a much, it sounds a little different because it's doing pitch change, but it's like leaving the time the same. And so we end up with different, a little bit different quality when it's extremely stretched. But it means that it's always the same length, even if it's played. In different ranges. So that's actually kind of cool. We can do some other like pitch. So we do it in like 1/8 speed. Sounds slightly out of tune, but we would have a chance to change that as well with these tools. And so, cool. A lot of different options just to get synth sound in here in terms of sampling. I think that there's it's some really nice ways to mangle your sounds. I think that that's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing is just being able to mangle things and do things with it. Let's do a forward loop on this. Let's change that back to normal speed. And then if we're like, you know what, these tools in the quick sampler are a little limiting, let's just pull this into the full sampler. That's another thing I like is that you can just pull that one into the other one. And then we could do optimize. The optimized loop doesn't seem to work all that great, which is kind of interesting because I've used it before and it seemed really nice, but in this case it's not doing a very good job, which is interesting. Oh, you hear that? is actually super good. Cool. I wonder. Interesting. Part of that's because I have the I have a harmony built into the actual original patch. Let's change that. And maybe instead of doing it with just a harmony, let's add some interest by changing the filter around. I'm just going to add a little bit of a filter. Okay, so that's a new patch that we're going to use. And let's do the same thing with auto sampler. I think we have to do 5 seconds. And we're going to have it just search for a crossfade. We can always add those later if we need to, but so we're going to let this play the 6 different notes real quick. This is our test number 3. Okay, cool. So it looked like it found things. Let's see what we got here with this sampler. And I'm going to load up the new test number 3. And let's actually mute the original. Oof. It's close, but it's not perfect. Yeah, none of those were like super terrific. Let's try. That's better, but you can hear that it's like going back to an earlier place of the filter. I think that actually sounds pretty good. Even though each individual note isn't perfect yet, I think that overall together, I think that sounds pretty interesting. Well, and Bjorn, that's exactly right. With an opening filter, it's really hard, but that's why I set my sustain at a stable place and let it hit the sustain section before it's stopping the recording. So there should be a plateau, if even just for a little bit, in that the sample section. But if I wanted to do something that was just open and then closed, I wouldn't loop it at all. Or I would loop the whole thing. What I would probably do is just sample. So our auto sampler can do, let's see how far it can go. It can do 120 seconds. That's the answer. Just let it go for like a minute on each note if you need it to. And then if you're like, I need to hold something for 2 minutes, then we have some other options like crossfading with recordings, or one of the things we can do is switch this out. So instead of using necessarily, I'm trying to think of where that was on this one. Using the flex time down here, so that, for instance, if I turn on follow tempo and I set the speed to like 1/2, then it's going to play that. More obvious in halftime, but you get the ability to even go longer with it. Yeah. So the round robin now goes up to 60 or 32. That's in the new 10.7.5. So you can do 120 seconds with 32 round robins. That's going to be one big instrument. But somebody requested that feature. Otherwise, they wouldn't have asked for it. So who knows? Plus, you can do 16 velocity layers. So you could do 16 velocity layers, 32 round robins, sample every single note from the lowest up to the highest. And you can do, one of these auto loop functionalities. This instrument, just to give you a sense, I'm going to cancel this obviously, but just to give you a sense of how long this would take. If it doesn't crash the whole system, right? Oh, why isn't it telling me a time? It usually gives you a time estimate. Oh my gosh, I gotta cancel. That's gonna take like a year and a half. That would be so long. But maybe there's a time to do it, Maybe there's a reason. That would be insane. Complete insanity. But I like what I came up with so far in terms of Oh, that one doesn't sound good at all. Yeah, not great. In many ways, I think what we're going to have to, if I was going to actually use this instrument, I would probably turn off looping and just not do it. I just don't. And I think it's a little kind of a pain with it. Um, which isn't, I mean, it's not right or wrong. There's no right or wrongs with any of this stuff. There are certainly things which do and don't work. But in this case, I don't think that looping is giving us much. And so we just don't loop it. We say don't loop it, or as we did originally, one of the things we did was use the that's with the Penrose machine algorithm. And that one, it changes the overall sound of the synth a little bit, but it gives us a loopable instrument, which is kind of nice as like a payback, so to speak. Cool. Well, this has been a little bit less formal in terms of a live stream than I normally do. I didn't have it as much prepared or as ready to go. And I think if I want to do more of these sample ones, I'm probably going to need to do that because I want people to actually watch these and not just watch someone dinking around, but also to actually get some knowledge from it. And we were running into some issues the whole way through. It seems like maybe that's the better video to even have to watch just so you can see what some of the things we're dealing with are and sorting through them. So who knows? We'll see how this video does, if there's interest in it. I definitely want to do some more of the sampling stuff. I think that there's people who are interested in that. I think, more than not, people who want to watch a video on sampling already know about sampling. And it's pretty rare that I run into people who are like, I've never heard of what sampling is or know anything about it, but I want to learn about it. It's either or it's like, ooh, yeah, I already know everything about it. And so we kind of have to walk a fine line. But what I want to do and what I envision is making a series of videos where we do some creative sampling, some fun stuff, and you learn some new tips along the way, but also you just, you get to experience some of the sampling along the way. And we do some cool instruments. And we explore some sound design and some of the features of this, but certainly there's room to learn more for almost anybody. I mean, we could dump this into let's see, the spectral alchemy mode, right? And all of a sudden, how many people, I know a few who can use this thing really well, but I also know a bunch that can't. And this thing's amazing. So in each of those modes, it resynthesizes the sound in different ways. Spectral is one of my favorites because we can add in some things that you can't just do any other way. Like I can add in, frequency sweep across. I mean, just think of the possibilities of what you could do with this. I mean, okay, so we just add some really cool sounds to that. That's fine and all, but it's like I want to do more than that. I actually want to like make some otherworldly sounds with this. And then we can do so much in terms of I mean, maybe instead of a sampling series, we should just do an alchemy series and really go deep in on this thing. Jeez, that thing is cool. I mean, you could all be like creating sounds that no one's ever heard before, and some of it can actually be musical too. Anyway, that's it for the stream today. We'll figure out what we're going to do next. I agree with you, Bjorn. It wasn't always stock. I remember this when it was owned by Camel Audio, and it was like the holy grail of sound design back then. I don't know why that would change just because Apple bought it. It's still amazing. So maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe we'll do a series of alchemies instead of, or maybe both, like one sampling, one alchemy, one sampling, one alchemy. And Apple did improve it. I mean, they consistently improved it since since they bought it. They have never stopped really working on it, and I think that that's a cool part about it. Okay, that's it. Short and sweet today. Only 54 minutes of fumbling around sampling, but kind of fun at the same time. So I will see you all later.